evening. Welcome to Sound Health on Lagos Television. I am Olasumbo Mudukwe. Thanks for always staying with us. Extreme weather conditions like heat wave, flooding, vector-borne diseases outbreak are as a result of climate change. The United Nations says about 3.6 billion people are already living in areas that are highly vulnerable to climate change. How do we live with this, and how do we live above climate health conditions? Please stay tuned. The conversation begins after this break.
Heat waves, our floods, our droughts, our storms, about 7 million deaths a year that we suffer from air pollution. I would say there are three kinds of health emergencies that can be triggered by climate change. First is those direct emergencies, heat waves, wildfires, floods, droughts, and so on. The same burning of fossil fuels, which is driving the climate crisis, also contributes to about 7 million deaths a year that we suffer from air pollution. Climate crisis is undermining all of the environmental determinants of health. It's making it harder to provide water and sanitation or food systems, and it's actually rising sea levels, which are making some parts of the world uninhabitable. In fact, the most common form of health emergency, the most deadly form of health emergency that we have now is extreme heat. And the climate crisis is only making that a much bigger problem. Often that's in the form of providing relief after a population is hit by a flood or a storm or a drought. But what we're also having to do is to support countries to make them resilient to repeated events. So we're having to build in long-term resilience to the health threats presented by climate change.
Is still Sound Health on Lagos Television. Joining us via Zoom this evening is Dr. Jamiu Ganiu, a consultant public health physician, and he is going to share his expertise on the impacts of climate change on health. Good evening, Dr. Ganiu, and thanks for obliging us.
Thank you very much for having me this evening.
Before now, the United Nations says about 3.6 billion people are already living in areas that are highly vulnerable to climate change. Let us know what climate change is and how do we relate to this condition?
Okay, thank you very much. The idea of climate change has to do with the general global warming. Usually it happens this way. There's what we call the greenhouse gases. What they do is that usually when the sun hits the planet, that is the Earth, then usually the kind of the heat is being radiated back. Unfortunately, some of these heat are being trapped by the greenhouse gases, which include include carbon dioxide, methane, nitrous oxide, and others, and halogenated gases. So that will form a kind of blanket, which prevents some of those heat from actually escaping out of the heart. So usually it has its own advantage. The advantage is that without them, the entire earth will have been a kind of cold and become unbearable for people to live on.
Okay.
But unfortunately, the ideal temperature actually for which is inhabitable is 15 degrees. And usually when there is excessiveness of this gas, most of the heat get trapped in among the greenhouse gases, which now make the entire. When it gets overheated, that is where instead of complaining about issue of heat wave, people not finding it difficult as we are experiencing at the moment, and it has its own both health and other environmental effects. So that is how the issue of climate change occurs.
Okay, before we look at the impact on our health now, is this condition caused, is it a natural condition or influenced by population activities of humans?
Actually, it is purely man-made, and majority of these gases, especially carbon dioxide, is being generated through combustion of fossils, and you all know that that has to do with combustion of engines, which can be through our vehicles we use, generators, all those high machines we use for both industrial and domestic activities. And also, we can also generate some of these, like the methane, when through land filling, that are usually during combustion of some of the waste we actually generated. So those can also give up that. And also Nigeria, we can also get it through gas, all these natural gases that are being used for commercial or domestic purposes. Like for instance, hydroelectric power, wherever we're generating companies, we can actually, some of those gases are being generated through that. So those are different ways. It's purely man-made. And also deforestation has also been attributed to one of those because photosynthesis, if you can usually during photosynthesis, carbon dioxide is being utilized and oxygen being released into space. So where there are deforestation, some of those activities does not take place. So some of those, usually before carbon dioxide can be recycled to the carbon cycle, it will take a very long, even thousands of years. It can take thousands of years before some of them can get absorbed. So these are some of the challenge we have with that. And for the methane, which contain nitrogen, and salt, may take up to like 12 years before they can get back into the cycle. So these are some of the actually ways by which the issue of climate change actually occur.
Okay, so Dr. Gani, how do we limit the effects of these man-made condition? Because according to the United Nations, about 3.6 billion people are already living in areas that are highly vulnerable to climate change. And the population is about 7 billion already. So how do we limit the effects of this development?
Yes, we can actually limit it when we look at how the whole thing come about. And some of the ways are as follows. The need for us to invest into all these low energy devices, like the bulbs we use at home. Everything actually has to do with behavioral change, health education, and so on the use of alternative energy, which, as I said, like use of low energy bulb at home. Also, we can also use other source of power generation, like installation of solar energy. It may appear expensive, but if government can invest in that. Also, use of wind power, wind mode of generation of power, electricity can also be an alternative. And also, there are many countries now investing in alternative automobile. So what I mean by that is that the use of electric motor cars. Also, some use train, all these metro lines, buses that are being powered by electricity. That are being powered by true alternative source, maybe energy and say electricity. So I think through that we can achieve that. And apart from alternative source of generation, apart from the use of fossil fuel, in our homes, we can also carry out a kind of reuse, recycling techniques in the use of our domestic products. For instance, some electronics, we can, instead of buying a new one when they get spoiled, we can decide to fix them, repair them, and use them. I know people will not like it, but it has also been suggested that people can also patronize second-hand used goods instead of buying a new one, because when you look at the process by which they are being disposed, they also generate carbon dioxide and all those greenhouse gases, which we are trying to limit as much as possible. Also, we need to discourage deforestation, and all this rural-urban migration has contributed. Some of the farmland those areas where we have vegetations and so on, they've been replaced by housing and others. So too much of that also, contributed to that. So we need to reduce how we cut our trees and so on, because trees serve as reservoir for actually absorbing carbon dioxide. So we need, even when we cut down trees, we need to replace them as much as possible, which is very, very also very important. Also, around we need to have we need to encourage those that work in the factories to buy machines that consume less energy. Where it is not
Dr. Ganiu
possible, they should plant trees around those areas, vegetation and so on. I think all those processes actually will help. And again, I'm happy Nigeria is part of the intergovernmental partnership regarding the international governmental partnership on climate change. So I want to believe and we'll be looking for I'm looking for investors that will assist in terms of developing alternative energy source. Many countries have actually been opportune to have started that. I was in Tanzania to see a lot of work being done regarding low energy sources, and I think we too should look in that direction. And I want to, by so doing, I think Nigeria, we are blessed with sunlight. From what part of the country we have winds, so we can. I think it's time for us to embark on that of fossil fuel. As I said, we solely depend on. And as I've said, I'm happy. Some states have started, procuring buses that are electrically powered, which I think those are another ways I think we can do that.
All right.
And we cannot be able to achieve that if we don't have policy backup. So there's need to actually enact policies that will encourage another alternative source of power generation apart from fossil fuel.
All right, Dr. Ganiu, to a layman now, all you listed are more of environmental factors. They always say that would have no impact on my health. Does climate change impact our health at all, be it mental or physical?
Yes, it has. Like for instance, currently people are battling with, there is general heat everywhere, It's strong heat wave almost everywhere. Even in Lagos, we are witnessing that. And that may lead to heat exhaustion, case may be. So people are not finding out when that kind of situation, when you have an environment that is not conducive, your ability to put in your best will be an issue. People will get easily, they will have lack of concentration and so on. So these are some of the things, and people will not like putting, they'll be so tired. When people sweat a lot, you know what it is, they will not be so comfortable and so on. And I think that is one aspect. Another aspect of it is the fact that when you look at it also bring about breeding of some vectors like mosquitoes, so there could be possibility of high cases of malaria. People are being bitten by mosquitoes and so on. And also apart from malaria, there are other vector-borne diseases which the current weather condition can also encourage. So these are different ways. And again, apart from that, if climate change can lead to flooding, which we all currently there is a gradual melting of the glacier in the Arctic region of the world, and through that process, the sea tide is getting elevated. Apart from that, it also causes expansion of water. Through that, there is that possibility that occasionally we normally witness flood in some certain part of the world, and Nigeria is not an exception. And when there is flood, the devastating effect it will cause. It will destroy homes, destroy infrastructure. It will cause displacements with associated economic losses and so on. And in the event when it is not properly managed, it can serve as a source of outbreak of common diseases like cholera and so on. So these are different ways the current climate change can affect health. And apart from that, mental, it can also cause mental problem because where people are so concerned about what will happen, especially in flood-prone areas, or people are not enjoying, the current heat situation in the country. So that may cause some level of mental problem. People having that anxiety, depression, and so. So these are different ways by which that some people have heat rashes. So depending on the individual and how they're able to cope with the corporate climate change impact. Yes.
All right, Dr. Ganiu, before we let you go now, kindly share with us how we can cope or live with these extreme ash weather conditions.
Well, the only way is assurance that it's not going to be forever, It's going to be seasonal just for the meantime. Gradually we're approaching the rainy season, I think so. That should give us some level of comfort that just for the meantime. And meanwhile, as we are now, we try to stay more of indoor. That is what is being encouraged, unless we need to go to work. And for those who can afford AC, they put AC in their houses. And for those who can afford fan, they use it. And another thing is for us to use light clothing when outside, when leaving our homes. Not wearing heavy clothing at this moment. I don't think should be discouraged. So light clothing and so on, purely made of cottons and so on. And we encourage people as much as possible. You can take your bath more frequently at this period of time. And again, that we encourage that we eat more vegetable, take more fluids. And because with this current heat, people are prone to dehydration and so on. And that may put somebody into it, stroke and sickle. So exhaustion. So encourage people to take more water, take more fluid, and eat more vegetable that contain vitamins and so that we can use that to boost our immunity. And again, as I've said, if you don't have business being outside, you stay in your home and enjoy your home. That's essentially my final advice.
Okay, so I know I have said before we let you go, there are some people that are living with underlying conditions. So how well can they cope with the condition?
Triggers. And they try as much as possible to avoid those triggers. And ensure that they are with their healer as much as possible. And if they don't have any business being outside all the time, they stay indoor. And another thing that they should also ensure that they take their medication as prescribed by doctor. Wherever they have attack and it go beyond something that can be managed at home, I will advise them that medical practitioner for appropriate treatment.
Dr.
I think my advice.
Dr. Jamiu Ganiu, consultant public health physician, thank you so much for your thoughts on the impact of climate change on our health.
Thank you very much for having me this evening.
I have been speaking with Dr. Jamiu Ganiu, consultant public health physician, on how to limit the impacts of climate change on our health. Sound Health continues with trending health report from around the world. Please stay tuned. It is still Sound Health on Lagos Television. More to come in a moment.
During my practice for the last 20 years, I have been seeing these black deposits on the lungs, which is an evidence of the air pollution outside. Air pollution impacts lungs in a very bad way. They are the portal of entry. the approach has to be preventing the air from getting polluted. And if we go into the causes, we realize that unrestricted use of fossil fuels, whether it is coal, whether it is oil, or it is gas, this is one of the major drivers of air pollution and climate change. So controlling the main source, that is fossil fuels, is the way to go. The price of air pollution is paid by our lungs.
Well, this is why we say thank you on today's episode of Sound Health. Hope you've been enlightened on how to limit the impacts of climate change, the harsh weather conditions, or how to live with it at this time. For comments and inquiries, or you have topics you would like us to treat, please send SMS to 00358266603 or follow us on social media at LTV Social, #SoundHealth. A sound health is a sound mind. Make healthy living your choice.
Aging is a natural thing that cannot be prevented from happening, and there is need to understand how to deal with it, a rising condition and changes that comes with it. Elderly people require care and comfort to enable them live a healthy life free of worries and anxiety. These people who have served the nation in various capacities in their youth crave for care, love, and affection. And understanding their needs and concerns will ensure their good health. Lending emotional support also keeps them jovial and healthy.
The elderly amongst us, they represent our past, and we must not forget our past. While we are taking care of them, supporting the youth, the children, our children, so as to prepare them for our future, for the future. So we are also not forgetting our past by taking care of the elderly.
They deserve comfortable accommodation, free healthcare services, good food, clothing, recreation centers, and more. Regardless of the fact that people are aware that aging is a natural progression and it has its shortcomings, yet the society tend to ignore these and resort to unruly approach towards the aged.
How Nigeria be? It's a little bit strong for us. We want the government that will be providing something for the old age, for the youth, especially for the women.
Gbogbo orílẹ̀-èdè ìṣeré kọ́lọ̀ ń bá wa tún ṣe, jíjẹ mímu, health ọ̀fẹ́. Bí nǹkan bá ṣe wá sí bàbá lọ sí hospital, a máa sanwó. Owó tí ò sí ta tó mú tán máa tún sanwó. So kọ́lọ̀ Elédùmarè kó ṣàánú, bó ṣe kọ́lọ̀ túbọ̀ ṣàánú wa ká má rogun àìsàn.
In the advanced country, they normally have provisions to take care of the aged and the widows. In fact, they take care of those that are really citizens of that country. But in our home here, we don't have such provisions. Sustenance, even at old age, is very important. Some people die as a result of doesn't have sustenance, doesn't have anybody to care of them.
While lack of awareness regarding to the changes in behavior of the aged could lead them to being abused by many people around them.
I believe in looking after the aged in my community. It's something that my parents have believed in, and I believe passionately in it. You find out a lot of them don't have proper health care. They are sick, they can't go to the hospital. They are sick, they are waiting for their children or dependent on one person or the other.
However, it is important for the younger generation to embrace the aged rather than neglecting them. Old people need supervision, and the laxity to understand their needs and worries make them appear as strangers to the younger generation who regard them as burden. Countries around the world are putting everything right to guide and direct the youth at becoming future leaders. But in doing this, the elderly in the society should not be left out. Hence, government, groups, and the private sector must ensure that senior citizens are protected and catered for. The senior citizens in the society desire a life with good health, dignity, economic independence, and peaceful exit to the great beyond.
Have you had a hard time with taxes and understanding tax administration in Lagos State and the complex nature of Nigerian tax law? Do you know what agency or tier of government collects the various types of taxes? Have you ever found yourself asking any of these questions? Join us for your favorite program, The Tax Talk, your infotainment program.
lásìkò yìí o tó bá fẹ́ ìrànlọ́wọ́ ń bọ̀ wá o. ìrànlọ́wọ́ Lagos nítorí Sanwó-Olú ń ṣiṣẹ́. mo ní lásàrè tínú o Èkó ṣètọ́jú ẹ̀.
tí gómìnà wa Sanwó-Olú ṣe fún wa lénìí adébí wọn ká wá fún ìwòsàn ọ̀fẹ́ adẹ̀dẹ́bí ara àwọn doctors lóríṣiríṣi wọn ṣàyẹ̀wò fún wa wọ́n fún wa lóògùn tó dáa then wọ́n wá fún wa wá gbé packages fún wa wọ́n lé àwa tabatilé láti 70.
My big thanks goes to Lagos State government. For since I was born, I've never come across this type of a thing before.
Àwọn kan tó kẹ̀ wà nínú ẹ̀ òun ni spark wà ń bẹ̀ ṣúgà wà ń bẹ̀ modus wà ń bẹ̀ kọ́tà wà ń bẹ̀ rúùfù wà ń bẹ̀ sẹ̀mó wà ń bẹ̀ chocolate wà ń bẹ̀.
We really thank God and we give kudos to Lagos State government because we have not seen this type of a thing for a very long time. It's not that we don't benefit before, but this one is a major one. You will get all that you want, both the medical, the diagnosis, the treatment, and even they will give you food if you are above 60. They will even give you drugs and everything you want.
My Eco cares, your Eco cares, my Eco cares for me. Eco cares for you.
Certain people within my company have taken it upon themselves to meddle in the affairs I had in place. A player's worth is not just in how well they know the game, but in what they're willing to sacrifice for it.
Whatever you're enjoying, Mommy, this is the price.
Have you finally realized what you really want?
Power. I want the power to control what happens in my life.
Since the last day of last season, we are ready to do it all again. Phil Foden is having the season of his life. Brilliant! Just brilliant! That is quite something!
Stay connected for all the football you want, starting from 5,100 Naira per month.
This is Lagos Television, the voice of Lagos.
ẹ̀kọ́ lẹ́kùṣẹ́ àtàárọ̀ yìí ni ìròyìn láti lè ṣe tẹlifíṣàn ìpínlẹ̀ Èkó orúkọ mi ni Modúpẹ́ Ali. Ààrẹ Bọ́lá Tinubu ti kúrò ní Riyadh ní orílẹ̀-èdè Saudi Arabia níbi tí ààrẹ ti ṣe ìpàdé lórí ohun tí ó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ ní àárín gbùngbùn ìlà oòrùn. ọkọ̀ òfurufú ààrẹ gbéra ní aago 4:20 ọ̀sán òní. Ààrẹ Tinubu ní ó yẹ kí ìjà tó ń wáyé ní Gaza dópin, ó tilẹ̀ ti falẹ̀ ju bó ṣe yẹ lọ tó sì ń kó ìnira bá ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ èèyàn. Ààrẹ wípé ìlú méjèèjì Israel àti Palestine lè gbé pọ̀ pẹ̀lú ààbò tó péye àti iyì fún ara ẹni. Ìyẹn gẹ́gẹ́ bí ààrẹ ṣe ṣàlàyé níbi ìpàdé tó lọ ní Riyadh. Ìjọba àpapọ̀ ń fi ojú ọ̀rọ̀ ìlànà gbígbà owó orí lọ́nà kan ṣàn láti lè dín wàhálà sísan owó orí lóríṣiríṣi ọ̀nà kù kí ayé lè rọrùn fún aráàlú. Alága ìgbìmọ̀ amúṣẹ́ṣe fún ààrẹ lórí àtúnṣe lórí ọ̀rọ̀ owó orí Táíwò Oyèdélé ló sọ̀rọ̀ yìí fáwọn akọ̀ròyìn. Ó ní ìgbìmọ̀ òun ti ṣe ìlànà tó dá lérí àjọṣepọ̀ láàárín àwọn tó láṣẹ láti gba owó orí àti àwọn ìpínlẹ̀. Ó ní ìlànà gbígbà owó orí lórílẹ̀‐èdè jẹ́ ọ̀nà àtijọ́ tó yàtọ̀ gedegbe sí ohun tó ń ṣẹlẹ̀ lágbàáyé tí ó sì ń dojú tì ní. Ó ní àtúnṣe tí ìjọba fẹ́ ṣe yóò ṣe àǹfààní fáwọn oníṣòwò kéékèèké àti àwọn oníṣòwò ńláńlá. Àwọn aṣáájú ìjọba àtàwọn aṣojú láti àwọn orílẹ̀-èdè bíi 200 ló péjú sí Azerbaijan fún ìpàdé àpapọ̀ àjọ ìṣọ̀kan orílẹ̀-èdè àgbáyé lórí ọ̀rọ̀ nípa àyípadà ojú ọjọ́. Akọ̀ròyìn wa Bukola Teloko tó lọ Azerbaijan jábọ̀ pé ìpàdé ìbẹ̀rẹ̀ ní Baku, Azerbaijan. Ó pèsè àǹfààní láti gbọ́ oríṣiríṣi èrò àti ìfìmọ̀ṣọ̀kan pẹ̀lú àjọṣepọ̀ lórí kíkojú àwọn àyípadà tó ń wáyé àti bí ìlera pípé ṣe lè wà tí ayé á ṣe gbé fún oníkálukú wa. Àwọn aṣáájú káàkiri àgbáyé, àwọn olórí ilé-iṣẹ́ ló jókòó ṣe àpérò lórí ọ̀rọ̀ àyípadà ojú ọjọ́. Ikọ̀ ìlú Èkó àti Nàìjíríà wà níbi ìpàdé yìí. Lára wọn ni ọ̀gá àgbà àjọ LASEPA. Ìrètí wà pé àwọn orílẹ̀-èdè yóò gbé ìgbésẹ̀ tó yẹ ìfọwọ́sowọ́pọ̀ ṣe àgbékalẹ̀ àwọn ìlànà ọ̀nà ìlọsíwájú nípa àyípadà ojú ọjọ́ gẹ́gẹ́ bí wọ́n ṣe fẹnukò ní Paris. Ẹgbẹ́ àwọn òṣìṣẹ́ NLC pàṣẹ pé káwọn ọmọ ẹgbẹ́ bẹ̀rẹ̀ ìyanṣẹ́lódì bẹ̀rẹ̀ láti ọjọ́ 1 oṣù kejìlá ọdún. Àwọn olóyè ẹgbẹ́ NLC ti ṣàgbéǹde ìgbìmọ̀ amúṣẹ́ṣe tí yóò lọ kiri ṣe ìpolongo ìtanijí fáwọn òṣìṣẹ́ lórí pé wọn kò gbọdọ̀ jẹ́ kí ẹnikẹ́ni tẹ ẹ̀tọ́ àti iyì tí wọ́n ní lójúmọ́lẹ̀. Ẹgbẹ́ NLC fi ẹ̀sùn kan àwọn tí ó ń tẹpo pé wọ́n mọ̀ọ́mọ̀ mú kí owó epo pẹtiró lọ sókè ju iye tó yẹ kí wọ́n tà á lọ. Nípa bẹ́ẹ̀ wọ́n kó ìnira báwọn aráàlú pẹ̀lú ìnira tí ó ń kojú àwọn aráàlú tẹ́lẹ̀ lórí ọrọ̀ ajé. Nípínlẹ̀ Èkó, gómìnà Babájídé Sanwó-Olú darí ètò ìbúra fún Rékíà Olúfúnkẹ́ Hasan, alága ìjọba ìbílẹ̀ onídàgbàsókè Onígbòǹgbò lẹ́yìn ikú ẹni tó wà nípò náà tẹ́lẹ̀ Ọládọ̀tun Ọlápọ̀nlé. Gómìnà Sanwó-Olú gba alága tuntun náà lámọ̀ràn pé kó gùnlé àṣeyọrí alága tó wà nípò yìí tẹ́lẹ̀ fún ìgbéga ìjọba ìbílẹ̀ onídàgbàsókè Onígbòǹgbò àti gbogbo aráàlú. Akọ̀ròyìn wa Màó Gbèjòsú jábọ̀ pé ìgbésẹ̀ wà ní ìbámu pẹ̀lú òfin ìlú Èkó ọdún 2015 lórí ìṣàkóso ìjọba ìbílẹ̀ ẹ̀ka 26 àti ẹ̀ka 24 pẹ̀lú ẹ̀ka 25 tó fi múlẹ̀ pé tí alága bá kú, igbákejì rẹ̀ ni yóò bọ́ sípò alága. Kọmíṣánná tó ń rí sọ̀rọ̀ ìjọba ìbílẹ̀ àti ọ̀rọ̀ oyè jíjẹ àti ìdàgbàsókè ìgbèríko Káyọ̀dé Robert fi alága tuntun náà hàn gómìnà Babájídé Sanwó-Olú. Lẹ́yìn tí Hasan búra, gómìnà Babájídé Sanwó-Olú tọ́ka sí pé iṣẹ́ ìṣàkóso gbọ́dọ̀ tẹ̀síwájú bó tilẹ̀ jẹ́ pé ipò alága tẹ́lẹ̀ rí ó dùnní púpọ̀, ó sì fi àlàfo sílẹ̀ tá a gbọ́dọ̀ dí. Gómìnà pè fún àjọṣepọ̀ pẹ̀lú alága tuntun tó bọ́ sípò. Gómìnà Sanwó-Olú tún ké sí gbogbo àwọn alẹ́nulọ́rọ̀ níjọba ìbílẹ̀ náà pé kí wọ́n ṣiṣẹ́ fún ìdàgbàsókè ìlú Onígbòǹgbò. Wọ́n dákẹ́ díẹ̀ jì nírántí alága tí ó di olóògbé lọ́jọ́ àbámẹ́ta ọjọ́ 2 oṣù yìí. Gẹ́gẹ́ bí ara ìgbésẹ̀ láti mú kí àwọn tí ó ń dún mọ̀ọ́rọ̀ mọ́ ìlú dínkù jọjọ, ìjọba ìpínlẹ̀ Èkó wó gbogbo àwọn ahéré tó wà lábẹ́ àwọn afárá. Iṣẹ́ ìbẹ̀rẹ̀ ní ọjọ́ Ajé lábẹ́ afárá Ẹlẹ́gbàtà tó wà nítòsí Apọ́gbọ̀n. Àjọ káì wó àwọn ahéré 54 táwọn èèyàn bíi 84 ń gbé àti àwọn ilé ìgbọ̀nsẹ̀ 8 tó wà lábẹ́ afárá ní agbègbè ọ̀hún. Olùdarí àjọ káì ajagunfẹ̀yìntì Ọláníyì Ọlátúbọ̀súnkò ló darí iṣẹ́ náà. Ó ní ọ̀pọ̀lọpọ̀ ìdọ̀tí ni wọ́n dà sínú ọ̀sà, kódà wọ́n ń da ìgbọ̀nsẹ̀ sí pẹ̀lú. Ó ní àwọn ọ̀daràn pàápàá ń fibẹ̀ farapamọ́ sí. Àjọ káì wá àwọn ahéré yìí lẹ́yìn tí wọ́n ti kọ́kọ́ fún wọn ní ìwé, wọ́n sì bẹ̀rẹ̀ iṣẹ́ lẹ́yìn ọjọ́ 7 tí wọ́n fún wọn ní ìwé. Ó kìlọ̀ fáwọn tó ń tasẹ̀ àgẹ̀rẹ̀ sí òfin ìmọ́tótó ìlú kí wọ́n jáwọ́. Bákan náà ni àwọn tó ń da ìdọ̀tí síbi tí kò yẹ àtàwọn tó ń kọ́ àwọn ahéré káàkiri pàápàá sí ojú títì kí wọ́n jáwọ́. ọmọ ilẹ̀ Gẹ̀ẹ́sì Mark Cavendish parí ìtàn eré ìdárayá rẹ̀ pẹ̀lú àṣeyọrí tó ní níbi ìdíje tí ó wáyé ní Singapore. ọmọ ọdún mọ́kàndínlógójì yìí mókè téńté nínú ìdíje tó fi parí ìrìn àjò eléré ìdárayá rẹ̀ fún ọdún mọ́kàndínlógún. ó káàkiri fún ìgbà márùndínlógójì nínú iṣẹ́ eré ìdárayá tí ó yàn láàyò. níbi lárédé lédè Yorùbá ẹni tó kárẹ̀ lédè Gúwà nítòsí tẹ bá ráwọn ìṣẹ̀lẹ̀ tó ń là kíyèsí ìjọba níwàrà ṣíṣe ìpè nọ́mbà 767 tàbí 112 ọ̀fẹ́ ní ìpè ìjà àfọwọ́sowọ́pọ̀ borílẹ̀-èdè sókè téńté yóò ṣeé ṣe. orúkọ mi ni Mọ́dúpẹ́ Àlè.
mẹsílẹ̀ mi kúrò lè wo ìnùbọ̀sọ́ kúrò àzọ́ àfọ́nùgbọ́tàn lórí ilé ìtàn tẹlifíṣàn àwọn ìtàn lẹ́ni náà máa ń gbé ìjọsọ. òtógbógá Bọ́lá Tinubu kò tán òtógbó Saudi Arabia nádògọ́wá wígbé ìnà òtógbó Nàìjíríà jóná bàmẹ̀hẹ̀ ẹ̀bàṣí sọ̀yọ̀ òtógbó Saudi Arabia kúwẹ̀ èyí nádòdò òhòdìdọ̀ kódó nùkọ́tọ̀ òtógbó Saudi Arabia kódó gbọ̀n ògbólópọ̀n kódó tó kíláàfòfò èjìjọ òtógbó òtòmẹ̀yìntọ́lẹ̀mẹ̀ náyè ní dósìgáyàn ònúyè sìgánbàṣí nado ya òpónùkún òhó ilẹ̀gò mọ́dùpúlọ́wọ̀ ìwòlò etí tó fi náà wẹ̀ ẹ̀dọ̀ òjẹ́rẹ́lọ́dẹ̀ ná àwọn èjìjọ tó Gaza nífọ̀ dọ̀dẹ́ ònú àwọn alọ́yìí dó èdìdó tó kílá tó gbòdè vólẹ̀ ìwádọ̀ wẹ̀gbẹ̀ etí tó gbó Gaza kódó Israel pósí ṣẹṣẹ ẹ̀jẹ̀dọ̀ yé ní pẹ̀nùkún ègò nígbà kú gàn lé. tòótógbó Nàìjíríà fi wẹ̀yẹ́ dọ̀ òtógbó lórúkọ láti tò àkọ́ ìdídí tó wẹ́gbẹ̀ tán kódó takọ́ yìí sí hó dọ̀yẹ́ kó bá epo nádó òtẹ̀dọ̀pọ̀ nádó náà yí òkú ẹ lọ èèwọ̀ nádó dè tó kílápò tó mẹ́rin náà takọ́ yìí tán náà jí nùkọ́tọ́ ìpínpínnùkún takọ́ ẹ̀hó òtógbó lùdú zédà yìí ẹnẹ táwọ̀ Òyedélé wọ́dọ̀ hó epo dòlè nìkan tó lẹ́ẹ̀pọ̀ bọ̀ ẹ̀dọ̀ òdé onílẹ̀pọ̀ tẹ́dọ̀ tòdì tòótógbó lẹ́mẹ̀ẹ́ òjẹ́rẹ́lọ́dẹ̀ náà yìí ní díọ̀hẹ̀ yìí náà basítì tó takọ́ ẹ̀hópó lọ́tí tó lọ́hẹ̀ ọlọ́dúnṣọ́ basítò dì ẹ̀yẹ náà dèké àjọwó níyà gàgàjì náà àjọwà tọ́lẹ̀ bọ̀ nídòsí gà ń bọ́ àwò náà.